Joy is one of the fundamental human rights.
Joy has a very positive force in terms of motivating people.
Being together like 15 years without the joy would be impossible.
We live in a free world, but we're surrounded by boundaries. We're surrounded by war.
When the war started, it was definitely the worst moments of my life. I remember that I completely gave up everything. I was just focused on supporting the refugees.
I think it was a huge collective movement, huge collective movement. We go back to joy being a collective state rather than only an individual state.
Welcome to the latest episode of Leading with Joy, where we dive deep into the lives and insights of remarkable individuals who are making a meaningful impact in their fields and communities. Today, we are thrilled to have with us two extraordinary guests, the wife and husband superheroes, Aleksandra and Marcin Petrykowski. Aleksandra is one of the most respected lawyers in Poland, but her dedication extends beyond her professional career as she follows her passion for supporting refugees, advocating for women's empowerment, and leading mentoring activities for women. Marcin Petrykowski, one of the most gifted and progressive CEOs I've met, alongside his wife Aleksandra, shares a profound commitment to societal development and change. His perspectives on business, leadership, and the integration of personal values into professional life offer insights into creating a more compassionate and responsible society. In this enlightening interview, we explore their inspiring journey, discuss both joy in personal and professional realms, the transformative power of mentorship and community involvement, and the intricate balance of self-care amidst their demanding roles in their quest to make a positive impact in the world. Hello, I'm Marcin. Welcome to Leading with Joy. And I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome you to the podcast. Marcin, we've known each other for 5 years now?
We have indeed.
Usually in your seat, invited by you to give a talk on designing for impact ventures, more responsible enterprises.
And you did a phenomenal job there.
All of the campaign we filmed to mobilize the women's vote.
Yeah, the women's vote.
In
the biggest in Poland, I need to add.
Election.
Yes, exactly.
It was simply brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But before we dive into joy in technology, enterprise, and joy in influencing positivity in society, what are your definitions of joy? Let's have that understanding in place first.
Okay, shall I be the first one?
Please go ahead.
Go on.
Okay. Okay, so obviously I went through all of your podcasts. And for the beginning, I'm very privileged and very happy to be here. I was very touched by your statement because you are always stating that joy is one of the fundamental human rights.
Correct.
And obviously this part for me is the most interesting one. So I went through all the fundamental human rights, which is like right to freedom, right to fair trial, right to vote. I was just thinking that joy is somehow the mixture of everything. So assuming that we have like all the fundamental human rights fulfilled, then for sure we can say it for everybody that we are in the state of joy. Yes.
So you're looking at joy as the ultimate desire.
Yes.
And that allows you to put these building blocks in place,
Yes.
as stepping stones that,
Yes.
as a result of
result.
seeking,
Yes,
of
exactly.
seeking
So like
and
ticking
desiring.
all the boxes
Excellent, yeah.
with the very fundamental human rights shall be joy.
Marcin, what about you?
Thanks. I'm going to build a bit on that. I think my definition is a bit more narrow, a bit more defined. For me, joy is very linked with freedom. For me, freedom, both in terms of the ability to express oneself, being true to your beliefs, being true to your desires, being true to your dreams, and being able to deliver upon them, fulfill them, but also in the sense of having economic and libertarian freedom. I think that's one of the key fundamentals that one needs to have in place in order to really feel joy. And joy for me is definitely a longer-term state rather than a short-term state. And I think, joy, how I would classify it, it's one of these states that it's relatively difficult to develop on your own. It very often ties in with some kind of a more collective feeling. So it's actually one of these, how I would differentiate happiness and joy is that happiness for me is more individual, joy is more collective. It's like if you're part of like a group, a society, a movement that even further emphasizes and gives you the ability to really, fulfill the state of joy, yeah? So I tie these things all together. I think it's a set, freedom and the ability to be yourself and express oneself, and then both from I think in particular in the current state of affairs around the globe, the whole notion around, economical freedom ties in very nicely with joy, in my humble view. But on top of that, having this really sense that it's something greater than just what you bring to the table. It's actually, some kind of a catalyst that is developed through the environment that you operate within.
So to you, what I'm hearing, joy is a journey to freedom by connecting with the higher self, with your own purpose, and you relate that purpose to that of the society, the people, the collective.
Impact. I would probably say that it's very tied to creating impact. Joy, for me, it's like a function of having an ability to impact.
Was joy there when you first met? Was joy part of the matchmaking, the wooing of each other? Like, tell me, how was it?
Being together like 15 years without the joy would be impossible, I think.
And how do you keep the flame? How do you keep the flame going?
Remain true to what you bring to the table, rather than needing to adhere to a preconceived model. I think that's one of the key elements that actually allows not only us to build joy, but I think, everyone, their ability to be true to their identity and to live their life the way they really want to express themselves. I think that's effectively what brings people together and gives them a connection which is greater than just a temporary moment in time, elevating it to a longer-term partnership. And I think one point to bring to the additional, I would say, context is I think joy has a very positive force in terms of motivating people to be A, better versions of themselves, B, to learn, grow, and enhance their skill set.
Can you bring some of this to life for our viewers and listeners? Was there something particular in your own life's journey that was catalyzed by joy or the desire to achieve joy?
I think, majority of the milestones that I achieved in my life were a function of me being rewarded by certain elements of joy, which led me to even further embark on that journey. But in order to embark on the journey, I needed to add more muscles. I needed to add more skill set. So, every professional endeavor I embarked upon needed to have these elements of joy on the way, because they were, A, directing me further to the North Star. That's the direction I'm heading. I need to continue. In order to continue, I need to be a better version of myself, but also in relationships, also in people interaction. If you don't get this positive vibe, like look at relationships, If you meet someone and you don't gain very early on this element of joy, something that brings you together, something, this spark, your ability to build a long-standing relationship with that individual is constrained. It's not that easy. It's doable, but it's not that easy. But if you gain these moments of spark, these moments of glitter in your life, that builds a far greater connection and allows you to really, like really expand the relationship. And I think that's my point. Yeah, I think it's an emotion it's a very creative emotion. If you navigate it well, if you use it well, if you leverage it well, it actually can be a force that really can make a huge difference. Yeah. Hence, going back to freedom, going back to human rights, I think it very nicely shows us that, like in my perception, that it's actually one of these forces that actually has the potential to really propel things forward. Yeah, and there's not many emotions that have that. Yeah, to be honest, I think if you think about it theoretically, actually negative emotions have usually negative emotions have more of that force.
Because they remain with you. I mean, it's
exactly,
so easy
they remain with you,
to...
and because you're out of your comfort zone, you are then pushed. You push your boundaries. This is a positive emotion.
So what's the opposite to joy?
Yeah, but still it's not a joy, yes.
So when you think about joy, right, the opposite of joy is what to you? For example, hope and fear, right? We talked about fear, fear-based, fear-led society, and how we are often, how it's conditioned into us, as children, and that we continue manifesting fear through different ways. So what's the opposite, when you think about joy, what is the opposite of joy?
Constrained.
Constrained? I would rather say fear. No, but still, at the end, it's so like...
And can the two, I want to build on this point, can the two coexist?
Can they two coexist? Joy and fear,
and
for example,
opposite.
yes?
Joy
And the
fear,
opposite. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I would
how do
say.
we overcome? What's the way to...
Like
in human
giving
rights, for example, right? We live in a free world, but we're surrounded by boundaries. We're surrounded by war. We're surrounded by constraints, as you say.
Yeah, so like even we Poles, when the war started in Ukraine, like from one perspective, we feel like, very happy, very privileged to have peace, to have like roof, to have like our families with us. But in the same time, obviously, we were like at least my life and my energy was like very full with fear because we don't know what would happen like in the next few weeks, yes. And like if we will be able to like, provide safe life for our children. So even talking about like the peace and war, on the contrary, yes, you have like, for the Poles, for the Polish people, we live in a state of joy, and in the same time,
just a few miles.
Yeah, like,
away.
200 kilometers from our house.
Yeah.
And not even because like we have all the Poles had the refugees in our house, yes, houses. So like, so we were full of the very fear, very much fear, but in the same time, at least me, I felt like very privileged, and I felt joy because I was able to help. So I was the one to provide, like, I don't know, the house, the school, the psychological help for the refugees. So in the same time, I was like very privileged and joy, I can say.
And I love
but
what
still
you said.
full of fear, yes.
I love what you said, because I'm hearing, you've been led by, intentions, baseline values, human values. And you, Marcin, you helped bring a lot of that wisdom, the business wisdom from Ukraine to Poland.
I brought a lot of wisdom as well.
Okay, well, tell me both. What's the...
Okay, I was the leader. I was definitely the leader in terms of like providing help for the refugees.
Okay.
So I was the one who...
Now I know where it started.
It did. Though.
I'm not saying.
It did, but the moment when it became more structured and organized was because of the idea that I brought back home about you joining in a more, I would say, formal manner, a NGO, which initially...
Okay, so you did it,
No, I'm just saying that's the way it started to have a bigger impact.
This is very true, so I will tell the story. Okay, so like from the very beginning, When the war
So it was
started.
teamwork, okay? It was teamwork.
No, I was the leader.
So where's the
You were-
collective? So we're talking about collective here, right?
No, I was
with
definitely
your daughters too.
with my daughters too.
They
Yes.
they gave inspiration.
Yeah, like that. But that is
You
that,
just said it. They gave you inspiration.
yeah,
the
yeah.
family, the familiness, the safety, right? That you could compare and contrast to those who had none.
When the war started, it was definitely the worst moments of my life, because we left our kids in Poland and we just went for some wedding party to Venice. So you can imagine for the war started, the refugees already are like floating to Poland. So what you can do remotely. So I was like, okay, what I can do, I would just put the ad on Facebook that I would like to welcome some refugees in my house. So I was not even discussing this issue with you. I just put this ad on Facebook. And like, I don't know, it was like 2 hours. My friend just called me and say, okay, I'm just on the board. I have like few refugees, 3 generation. If I can just bring them to your house. So I remember that we just came back from Venice, and like this family, this beautiful Ukrainian family have been moved to our house. And like the first period was the mixture of like, working on different kinds of WhatsApp groups, with working with some NGOs, working with some institutions, governmental, non-governmental, like, that was, I remember that I completely gave up everything. I was just focused on supporting the refugees. And this is true that one day Marcin just came to house, and like one of his friends was like in the process of establishing the NGO, and like because of Marcin, we have been somehow introduced, and like we were like at the end we established the NGO, and like we are the founders. Yes.
No, I think it was very. I think, to put it into a more concrete manner, all I was doing a lot of initiatives which were individual and were very difficult to scale. Very difficult to scale because they were very much dependent on her involvement and her ability to, get the network up and running. So when I heard that someone is actually trying to scale it, when someone is really trying to build a body around it, it was like an instant connection. Like, why would you carry on doing this on a smaller scale if you guys can team up and build something, and you will instantly multiply the effect.
Yep.
So I think it was more, pulling together a more of a
this is true, but
scaling mentality into something which became an initiative that was done grounds up. Yeah, and I think that was the moment when it really kicked off. Yeah, when these guys got together.
But still, even though I was in the process of like funding our NGO with like the remaining professionals, I was like still continuing my so like still I was arranging like the reallocation, like providing the education, the psychological support for refugees. So like still I was continuing. So like on one hand I had the NGO with like those people, and on the other hand I was like continuing all the paths which I've already started. Yes, so.
But I love how you beautifully illustrated how you created joy for yourselves first in your lives.
But
early on, and then move on to nurture that joy and then lead with it, right? Because you very quickly pivoted from corporate values to human values. You both leverage each other's roles within your respective positions, within your networks, to act. Being led not by just purpose, by conviction. Your intuition was telling you, well, the intention is this is what I need to do, and it manifested itself beautifully.
Yeah, but that was like emotionally, energetically, that was, at least for me, like that was no other way.
This was a big thing for the nation in general. You had a lot of people, from the business front that actually really made a huge effort and they completely switched their lives around. Yeah? So it was like, I think it was a huge collective movement, huge collective movement, which even further, going back to what we discussed at the beginning, even further motivated more to follow. We go back to joy being a collective state rather than only an individual state, which is what I mentioned at the very beginning. It was a great illustration that, you know, when the sum of many is greater than what you see on an individual level.
And that's the spirit behind the collective.
Yeah, the solidarity
even
was amazing with the
communities,
Poles. Yes, the solidarity and generosity was amazing with the Polish people.